Hi, my name is Timothy Shale. Or rather, it used to be. I was your average 18-year-old guy, fresh out of high school and well on my way to manhood. Now I am back in school. And I am no longer 18 years old. This is my story. Only it doesn't start with me. It starts with my older sister, way back in 1993, when she was 6 years old. Enter Claire. You see, Claire was pretty normal until she hit the age of 4. She had short dark blonde hair which she insisted mom dye black. She had a handful of freckles which she eventually grew out of, and glasses, which she insisted on wearing even years later when contacts became common. Where most girls want to be the fairy princess of the storybook, Claire wanted to be the evil witch. She went through this phase for several years, begging our mother to buy her everything an evil little witch could want, complete with her own spell book, 25 authentic simple spells for the inexperienced young witch by U.N. Owen. I have no idea where mom found it. She doesn't even remember. All I know is that it changed my life completely. But I digress. You see, there was this one little spell in particular. It was the only one she ever actually tried, in fact. It purported itself to manifest one's 3 greatest desires. All you had to do was follow the directions, focus on yourself in a mirror, and your 3 greatest desires would become reality. Apparently it was bound to the user by wearing it against the bare skin. Well, it turns out Claire had followed the directions sure enough. It took her over a year to piece together all the ingredients, though truth be told I suspect she improvised a little in some areas. After all, it's not every day a 6-year-old can get hold of dried animal parts from semi-rare species, not mention some of the other ingredients required. But get them she did. The determined little thing managed to get it all together somehow and whipped up I suppose you could call it a talisman. It was a bizarre-looking necklace made out of little bones and sinew that was baptized in some freakish stewed concoction over a full moon when some planet and star were in conjunction, or some such. Now, if she would have actually used the thing like she originally intended, then everything would have been fine. There wouldn't be a story, at least, not this story, and my life would have turned out very normal. Unfortunately for yours truly, she didn't. Seems she was supposed to wait a fortnight before using the talisman after it was done. Something about allowing the harmonic energies to settle down or something, I dunno. Anyway, she carefully stuck it away in one of her little secret hiding places along with the book and various other witches' operati. Then I was born and she found a new hobby, namely making my life a living hell, and promptly forgot all about it. The finding now, turn the page 18 years. It's August of 2011. I was 18, had just graduated that year, and was enjoying the last free summer of my adult life before I hit the workforce. I was just your average teenager. 6 feet tall, auburn hair, I take after my father on that one, blue eyes, and full of youthful energy I didn't know where to direct. My older sister Claire was finally moving out after 23 years and I was all set to take over her larger, more spacious bedroom. I found it annoying actually. A girl can live with her parents until well into her 20s and people find it cute. A guy over the age of 20 still living at home with his parents is considered to be a bum. Oh well. All that mattered to me was that my devil spawn of a sister was leaving at last for parts unknown and wouldn't be around to give me hell anymore. That just left myself, my parents, and my little sister Caitlin. Now Caitlin, or Katie as I called her, was the complete opposite of Claire. Where Claire was into everything goth or punk rock, Katie was into ballerinas. While Claire preferred black torn clothing, Katie loved to wear pink frilly stuff. She was 10 years old, long blonde hair, and all sugar and spice, the stereotypical little girl. Don't get me wrong, I didn't hate Claire. It's just that we never seemed to get along. Katie and I, on the other hand, got along quite well. I always took her trick-or-treating, played with her when I had the time, even took her to the movies with me. Anyway, it all started after I finished moving into Claire's old room. We lived in an older 2-story home, the kind with all hardwood floors and the fancy woodwork. Well, as I was pushing my bookcase around, it became stuck on a stubborn piece of hardwood planking. I tried to step down on it to no avail. Lifting the bookcase was out of the question, as it was still full of books and too heavy even for me. Getting frustrated, I grabbed my hammer. I always figured that there are few problems in life one couldn't solve with a suitably large hammer, and I was about to put that theory to the test. It took a few good whacks before the entire plank came loose and flew off. "Aw, hell," I thought. Now Mom is going to let me have it for tearing up the floor. I was about to look for a few nails and try to fix it when I saw the tip of something sticking up. This must be what caused the board to stick up. Then it hit me. I had just found one of Claire's secret hiding places. Who knew what kind of incriminating things I might find in there that I could use against her the next time she tried anything with me? Feeling a brief moment of excitement, kind of similar to the time I managed to get hold of her diary, boy was that an interesting day, I reached in and started pulling stuff out. The first thing I extricated was the book. It was a smallish hardcover. It was the book's corner that was causing the floor to pop up. It didn't look like much at first glance, having a simple black background with dark purple lettering. I read the title, 25 Authentic Simple Spells for the Inexperienced Young Witch. Interesting, I thought. This must be before she got into the punk scene. I leafed through its pages a bit. A spell to bring good fortune. She obviously hadn't used that one, judging by her string of bad boyfriends. A spell to bring great beauty. I had to laugh at that. Claire was not exactly ugly as such, but I wouldn't call her a great beauty either. A spell for heart's desire. Typical girl stuff. I closed the book and proceeded on to the next items in the hiding spot. The next couple of things I could not readily identify, and wasn't quite certain that I wanted to. They looked like random dried animal parts. Some of them still had decaying pieces of fur and feathers attached. I resisted the urge to locate some hand sanitizer. Who knew what contagions they contained? With my sister, anything was possible. The last thing to come up was some kind of necklace. It had to be necklace. It had a string and what looked like a complicated zodiac symbol made out of small bones. This must be what those animals gave up their life for. I looked for more, but that was it. Not very incriminating, but at least it would give me a nice shot to fire back at her about the Young Witch book in some future argument. Putting all aside, I grabbed a few nails, repaired the floorboard, and finished arranging my new room. It was about that time Mom called up to announce lunch. I was about to wash up, but then looked at the pile of animal remains on my bed and thought better of it. Might as well get rid of these before I wash up for lunch, I figured. Grabbing the whole pile, I took them downstairs to dispose of them. Mom gave me an odd look as I threw away the animal remains. The book I handed over to her. "Here, Mom. Found this in Claire's room. Thought she might want her little spell book back. Dear God, I forgot all about that thing. I gave that to her, when she was 4 years old? I had no idea she still had it," Mom said as she took the book gently in her hands, reminiscing about old times. "She is coming by today for the last load of her things. I'll give it to her then." Well, tell her I found it and wanted to make sure she didn't lose it. She'll probably need that luck spell in there soon to pay for her apartment. There, I thought, that should strike some distant nerve, knowing I am aware of her little budding witch fantasies. Now, don't go starting another fight with your older sister, Mom chided and plopped the food down on the table. Lunch was uneventful. We finished our meal together at the dining room table and went our separate ways. Mine was to get ready to head out cruising with my friend Mark Danson. Mark was 5'11", brown eyes, brown hair, and sported a heavily muscular build he had worked hard for at the gym. Our parents were friends, and thus we had become best friends as well. Unlike my middle-class accountant father and homemaker mother, however, his parents were quite wealthy. His father was a pharmacist who owned his own store, and his mother was a registered nurse. His parents had bought him the ultimate graduation present: a brand new Mustang GT. We'd been driving around town in it, living up life and showing off now for the past few months. I envied him. I ran upstairs to my new room, threw on a ratty old pair of jeans, an equally elderly AC/DC t-shirt, slid my shoes on and made ready to head out when I saw that odd necklace sitting on the bed. I thought to myself, must have missed that when I grabbed the rest of the pile. I picked it up to examine it closer. I entertained the notion of tossing it in the waste bin for a moment. Then I thought better of it. It would probably annoy Claire even more if she saw me wearing it. Now, like I said, I didn't hate Claire. She had simply taken every opportunity to make my life miserable over the years, and I didn't dare waste the chance to retaliate, even in small measures. Completely oblivious to what was in store for me, I slipped the ugly necklace over my head. I also tucked it under my shirt in case Mark and I managed to pick up any girls. No point in taking a chance and ruining any potential chances. As soon as it touched the skin of my chest, a cold shiver ran down my spine. Wow. Maybe this thing really works, I thought as I headed out the door. I briefly wondered what spell she had used. Then an engine rev and a car horn honked outside, signaling Mark's arrival. The changing just outside my door, I almost bowled over my little sister in the hallway as she was coming out of her room. She was wearing her favorite tutu over blue jeans and a white t-shirt, and she had her dolls all spread out over her bedroom floor. Ready to play? Her happy, bright-eyed, innocent face looked up at me expectantly. I remembered too late that I had promised previously to play with her today. It was almost painful to turn her down. I thought about trying to explain things to her, but what would a 10-year-old understand about the final days of a teenager's freedom before entering adult life for good? Hey, I'm sorry, Katie, but I have something to do with my friend Mark. Her little pout was almost enough to change my mind. Perhaps it would have prevented what was to come if I had. But you promised. She whined. Look, I'm sorry. I'll try to make it up to you. I decided to try and deal. How about I take you to the movies later on this week? It's not the same, she sniffed. I already got everything already. I'm sorry, I tried again. Like I said, I'll make it to you later. I started down the stairs heading for the front door. You always ignore me anymore. Ever since you graduated. She stared at my retreating back, her hurt focused entirely on me. I wish you were my age still. Then you would still be in school and you would play with me more. Hurt, crying, and feeling abandoned, Caitlin ran back into her room and slammed the door shut. It was at that moment I felt it again. The cold shiver ran down my back, just like before. Only this time I also felt a definite tingle accompanying it. I didn't have the time to dwell on it. I ran down the stairs just as my mother came around the corner to investigate the source of the disturbance. What's going on here? Why is Caitlin yelling and slamming doors? I just wanted to get outside and away from there. But mothers have this amazing power to demand attention when they want it. I chose to answer, knowing it would only mean more trouble if I didn't. I promised Katie I would play with her yesterday. But I forgot about it and told Mark I would run around with him today. I could already see the fire in her eyes. You will do nothing of the sort, young man. You tell your friend you already had plans and get up there with your sister like you promised her. She's already pissed at me. And it's not like I ditched her on purpose, you know me better than that. And I did promise to make it up to her by taking her to the movies later. I could tell I hadn't quite won yet. Look, Mom. This is my last few months of enjoying my life before I get a job. I know Katie won't understand, but can't you relate to that? That did it. I watched her eyes soften up somewhat. Tim, I can understand where you are coming from. But one of the most important things in life is your word. Once you promise to do something, you do it. If people can't trust your word, then how do you expect them to trust you? Okay, first, this isn't a multi-million-dollar business deal we are talking about here. She opened her mouth to interrupt, so I hurried on. Second, it's not like I lied to her on purpose. It's an honest mistake. And I will make it up to her. And, yes, I know that my word is my bond and all that. I just want to enjoy this one moment in my life to its fullest extent. Boom, I had her on that one. Hook, line, and sinker. Then she changed tactics and outflanked me with a surprise attack. You're going out dressed like that? You look like you just walked out of a homeless shelter. This had been a sore subject between us for some time. She wanted me to dress up and present a neat and clean image. I just wanted to wear what I liked, and I liked my old clothes. They were comfortable. Yes, Mom, I'm monotone in her direction. I am going outside dressed like this. Here it comes, I thought. How many times have I told you, you are not a kid anymore? If you want to get anywhere in this world you have to, and this part one silently mouthed with her, present a neat and clean image. She gave me a light whack to the back of the head. And don't mock me. Sorry, Mom, I replied. Now I had her attention focused directly on me. I tell you. Sometimes I wish you were like your little sister. She is always neat and enjoys dressing in nice clothes. Once again, I felt the shiver. This time instead of a numbness, I felt a slight itching though. Another honk sounded from outside. I could hear the radio blaring and the bass blasting. Mark was getting impatient. I'll make a deal with you, Mom. You let me enjoy these last few weeks before I land a job, and the moment I do I will toss out my ratty old jeans and t-shirts. I was reduced to bargaining. And the dirty old shoes too, damn. She wasn't giving me an inch on this one. Yes, and the dirty old shoes too, I grumbled. Fine. You can go. But I expect you to spend some time with your sister tomorrow and take her to the movies later on. MOM. Now she was just pushing her victory. No buts. You will do as you are told, young man. When you get your own house, then you can make the rules, but as long as you are under my roof you will follow mine. Fine, I mumbled back, making for the door before she could either change her mind or add more to the demands. Finally outside, I ran to Mustang and hopped in. Let's roll, I said. Or tried to. The music was so loud I couldn't even hear my own words. Mark wanted to get moving himself though and wasted no time in speeding off, the Mustang's engine roaring in response. While we're heading into town, I kept having to scratch an itch in my crotch. Mark must have noticed too as he turned to music down and commented on it. "Dude, what's wrong? Got crabs or something? You get laid without me?" We had a standing bet going on regarding which one of us would score first. "It doesn't count if you had to pay for it, you know that, right?" "Very funny," I retorted. "Don't worry, I don't have crabs. I think my mom must have switched laundry detergents or something." That seemed to satisfy him as turned the radio back up to ear-bleeding level. If it was any louder, I think I would need a hearing aid before my old man. It did serve to keep me distracted from the itching though. After a few miles he pulled into a gas station and shut the car off. "Hey man, hop in there and pay for this. Here's a few 20s. Go ahead and get us a couple of drinks too." Mark was always loaded with money. His parents were very generous to his habits. I suppose mine would be too if they had as much to spare as Mark's parents did. Anyway, it was part of our deal. He buys, I fly. I didn't mind. I got a free ride most of the time on his dime, so it suited me just fine. I got out of the car, pulling at my underwear, which seems to have bunched up, as I walked into the store and straight up to the counter. $60 on pump, or whichever pump that the shiny black Mustang is sitting in front of. I always forgot to check the pump. "So sue me." "Sure thing," said the kid behind the counter. He wasn't much older than I was. I hope this wasn't what I had to look forward to for my future career. "Nice car," he added. I started walking toward the drinks section when I felt something different. Gone was the annoying itching. In its place now was a new feeling of constriction. What the hell is going on down there? I couldn't help wondering. I had to check it out. Make sure the boys were all right. I looked up and found sign pointing the way to the restrooms. It would be a few minutes before Mark was finished filling up anyway. Walking in the direction the sign, I hurried through the door, locking it behind me as I dropped my pants, and stifled the gasp at what I saw. What the hell, was all I could think. Now I normally wear boxer briefs, having given up the whitey-tighties long ago when I was little. I also know for a fact that boxer briefs are what I had put on this morning. Black ones, in fact. What I was wearing now, however, was definitely not boxer briefs. They were not any type of boxers at all, though they could probably fit the term briefs. I silently ran my hands over the foreign underwear now hugging my body. It's no wonder things felt tight down there. There wasn't any room for my little buddy. They felt like the boxer briefs I put on this morning, but they looked like something else. There was no peephole for starters. The rich black color was faded. No, fading right before my very eyes. I was in shock. I watched with horrified fascination as the darkness slowly faded out, revealing not white like I first suspected, but a light yellow color. The edges were different though. They were turning pink? And there was more. The material was actually thinning out while I watched. There was something on the front too, some kind of cartoonish design. They looked more like my younger sister's panties than anything else. It was too much. I yanked my pants back up and looked up into the mirror. I focused on the supply rack in the reflection, needing something reassuringly normal to ground my mind in reality. Had I not been in shock at this moment, I might have noticed a very slight lighter color to my normally dark blonde hair, or even the more subtle lack of the facial hair I had been desperately willing to grow these past few years. Slowly my reasoning began to return. Something had to be causing this. Underwear doesn't just change on its own. I would have read something in the news about it, I was certain. So what? And how? And then it hit me. That spell book. And the necklace. All this started just after I put on that damned necklace. The thing must be cursed. I reached for my cell phone, intending to call my older sister. Shit. I don't have her number. Quick, think. Think. There was a polite knock at the door. Someone obviously wanted to use the facilities. But how could I go out like this? Calm down, I told myself, just breathe deeply and calm down. No one can see what's underneath my pants. Just play it cool and no one will know. I pulled myself together and took a few deep breaths. Okay. I can do this. Open the door and walk away. Right. No problem. I reached for the knob, opened the door, walked out, and right into what was perhaps the hottest girl I had seen all summer. She bounced off the door and fell to the ground, nearly knocking over a display of pop cans in the process. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Please, let me help you up. This was the second girl I had nearly run over today. What the? She started. She stopped. It was clear she was angry. She looked about to open her mouth, probably to chew me out, and rightfully so. Something must have registered to her senses though. Instead, she simply took my offered hand and looked at me funny as I helped pull her to her feet. Are you okay? She asked. Aren't I the one who should be asking that question of you? Well, actually, yeah. You should. But you look, I don't know, like something's really bothering you. Christ. She knows. I knew she couldn't know that I was wearing what for all intents and purposes were girls' panties underneath my jeans, but I couldn't stop those thoughts from entering my head. Nothing serious. I remembered then I was still holding my cell phone in my hand. I thought fast. Just a, unpleasant phone call, that's all. She seemed unconvinced, but she didn't know me well enough to press the issue. I was about to make good my escape when she decided to stick out her hand. I'm Alicia, by the way. I gave up any notion of a quick exit by this point and resigned myself playing the social game. It was odd, really. Any other time I would have been doing anything to get this good-looking girl's attention. Now that I don't want it, I can't seem to get away from her. Maybe girls can sense that sort of thing. Tim, I replied, taking her hand and shaking it politely. You seem in an awful hurry to get away. Do I have bad breath, or are you just afraid I'm still angry that you tried to kill me with a restroom door? I blushed. I'm sorry, I was just in a hurry, that's all. You don't have to keep apologizing, she laughed. I'm all right. Cue the car horn honking outside. Good old Mark. His timing was always perfect. Any opportunity he had to keep me from winning our bet he took. Not directly, of course, but little things. Like honking at me when he can see through the store window that I'm talking to an obvious hottie. This time it backfired on him though. Is that your ride? She asked. I nodded. Nice car. Oh, it gets us around. It belongs to my friend. Now cue the stereo bass. Nice touch, Mark. Hey, my friends and I are heading over to the mall right now, then to a party later tonight. You and your friend are invited if you want to come. Oh God, can I ever get out of here? I don't know what my friend had planned. Lame, I know, but I had to try something. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that it's impolite for guys to turn down offers to parties from cute girls whom they've recently assaulted. Did she hit her head when she fell? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Let me just see if I've got this straight. You just met me. I tried to, as you put it, assault you with a restaurant door. And now you want to invite me and my friend, whom you haven't even met, to a party with your friends? Pretty much, yeah, she said. Why? I had to ask. 1, you're cute. 2, you're interesting. And 3, your friend has a kick-ass car. Does that about sum it up? Yep, I croaked, all clear. Good, she said, I'll see you and your friend at the mall then, yes? What could I say? This walking heart attack had me at her advantage and she knew it. Sure, was all I could manage in response. She laughed again. Dear God, she must find my shyness attractive. If only she knew why I was so reluctant at that moment, she would probably call me a freak and run away. I could still feel them under my jeans. Those mysterious panties which had, for lack of any other explanation, magically replaced my normal underwear. The feeling only served to remind me of the need to get out of there. Meet me at the food court in the mall at 5 then. And bring your friend. I can introduce him to one of mine. With that she smiled, winked, and walked into the restroom while I stood there like an idiot. Then my ears registered the bass thumping away outside and I came to my senses. I rushed up to the counter, claimed the unused money from the fuel charge, and hurried outside. As I hopped in the Mustang, Mark turned the key and its engine roared to life. The sound was somehow calming. So? Mark looked sideways at me as he pulled out of the parking lot. So what? What the hell do you mean, so what? Did you get her number? Good old Mark. Always thinking about same thing. At least the girl had caused him to forget about the drinks I never bought. No, I didn't get her number, I said, handing him the leftover cash from the gas station. Dude. You were just in there talking to a total hottie, and you didn't ask her for her number? This seemed to be a difficult concept for him to grasp. Another sideways glance. Are you gay? What? No. I don't. I didn't have the chance to ask, okay? That was obviously not enough to satisfy him. Okay. Fine. I didn't get her number, but I did get invited to her party later on this evening. I hated telling him. Now he would be insisting on going when all I wanted to do right now was figure out what the hell was happening to me. Party? Are you serious, dude? Hell yeah. Did she say where? When? Shit. I thought. Do we really have to do this right now? I sighed. I was about to talk my way out of the whole deal when I realized that this was exactly the kind of thing we both had been waiting for. This is what we had spent the last several months driving around town for. This is what we had been having wet dreams about since we were 12. Then I figured, what the hell? Why not? It's not like I can do any more about whatever the hell is happening to me at home than I can here. I can get my sister's number from Mom over the phone to get answers out of her. Besides, I have a few dollars. I can stop in at a store in the mall and buy some new underwear. Feeling a bit calmer now, and with a sound plan firmly taking root inside my head, I committed myself to going through with the whole party thing. What was it she told me? Meet her and her friend at the food court in a couple of hours. Right. I absently scratched at my calf as I told Mark what she said. Shit, yeah, dude. This is going to be great. I knew this car would get us lucky sooner or later. Inwardly, I was a little pissed. Of course, he'd credit it on the car. Never mind that said hottie considered his friend cute, and I did make certain to mention that part too. Oh well. Can't blame dog for acting like a dog. Or something like that. Anyhow, we were only about 20 minutes away from the East Side Mall. I held tight to my cell phone, just waiting for the chance to get away from Mark's deafening stereo system so I could call my mom and get Claire's number. We killed the time and our hearing, listening to his CDs along the way. Every now and then he would mercifully lower the volume for a few minutes where we would alternate between him going about the party his car had gotten us invited to. Apparently I no longer had played any part in the effort save to convey the message, and him asking me about what I thought about some random girl we happened to be passing. I just tuned him out for the most part until he forced himself back into the forefront of my consciousness with a couple of sternly placed dudes. I looked up at him and asked what he had said. I said, if you were stranded on an island, right, and the only other person around was your female cousin, right, not your first cousin I mean but like your third or fourth cousin, right, and you were stuck there for a couple of years with no real hope of rescue. Would you do her? At this, I stopped mid-scratch on my leg, calmly looked at Mark, and asked him the only decent response I could think of for that question. Is sex the only thing that ever crosses your mind? Well, yeah man. I'm a guy. I got needs. Don't tell me you didn't think of my question. You're probably afraid of the answer, aren't you? The hell with it. Let him think what he wants to. I just can't wait until we get to the mall and I can get out of here. Never thought it would take so long to make a single phone call. And why the hell won't my leg stop itching? That's as far as my thoughts got before the bottom of my stomach fell out for the second time that day. It didn't take a rocket scientist to connect the dots. My crotch was itching. It is now covered in what is most definitely a pair of girls' panties. Now my leg is itching. My leg is itching. Oh God, what the hell is happening to me now? As casually and nonchalantly as I could I reached down and tried to feel my leg through my blue jeans. This is not a simple thing to do. It's not easy to feel much detail through a thick pair of jeans. I started with the ankle. I could feel my sock. I moved up from there. Partway up my calf, still only sock. So far so good. Halfway up my calf. Still more sock. Okay, now I am starting to get freaked out again. I know my socks don't come up to my knees. At least, they didn't this morning when I put them on. But there it was. My sock was now twice as long as it was before. I felt the top of it just below my knee. Only just. That meant only one thing. Now I had on a pair of girls' panties and a pair of knee-high socks. I risked a brief glance at Mark, who wasn't paying me any attention, intent as he was on checking out every passing girl that went by. I returned my attention to my leg, raising my pants leg a little to have a look. What I say was not the black sports sock I remembered putting on, but a dark gray sock that stretched when I pulled on it. Christ! Could it get any worse? That's when the light went off in the rear view mirror. The siren was quick to follow. Of course. I just had to ask, didn't I? Shit, man. My dad will kill me if I get a ticket in this thing. Mark started panicking. He said he'd drop me from his insurance if I came home with a ticket. I was just doing 70 in a 55. My wardrobe problems temporarily forgotten, I started to share in Mark's discomfort. His dad really was pretty strict. I was there when he made the threat to Mark and I could tell he was serious. Quick, dude. When I pull over, switch me seats. I'll pay for the ticket and I'll give you something extra to make up for it. What? I replied, shocked at his proposal. How the hell am I supposed to make the cop believe I was driving? He can see you, Mark. No, man, look at the windows. They've got heavy tint. If you switch seats with me fast enough, he won't know the difference. Come on, man. You can afford to get a ticket, I can't. I'll make it up to you, I swear. Shit. It's not bad enough I have my own problems to deal with, now I have to deal with this too. I just never get a break. I thought to myself. Whatever, man, fine. You want to try it, then fine. I'll do it. But you owe me big time for this one. You hear me? Yeah, man, I could already hear the relief evident in his voice. It was lucky for him we took our driving tests at the same time, so I had my license too. Just take the wheel and slide over me as I pull over. I'll pop it out of gear, hop over, and then you can set the brakes. Okay? Here we go. We pulled the switch off without any problems. I stopped the car, set the brake, and turned off the engine. I then placed both my hands on the steering wheel. Fortunately, my uncle was a cop, and he told me exactly what to do if I ever got pulled over to put a cop at ease. Well, as close to at ease as a cop can get when sidling up to a random vehicle. It seemed to do the trick though. He looked around the car, saw my hands on the wheel, noticed the engine was off, and visibly relaxed. Do you know why I am pulling you over? Yes, sir. Because I was speeding, sir. Keep it polite, Uncle Ron had said. Keep it simple. Do you know how fast you were going, son? Yes, sir. I was going about 70, sir. Do not lie, he said. Be honest. Don't try to bluff your way out. You were doing 73 in a 55 zone. License and registration, please. Yes, sir. One moment, sir. Do what the officer asks you to do. Don't give him a reason to judge you. Here you go, sir. And the passenger's license too? I looked over at Mark. Not having much choice, he forked his over too. Son, you want to tell me who was really driving the vehicle now? What do you mean, sir? Do not lie, he said. I could see you and your friend moving around as the vehicle came to a stop. I am giving you the chance to tell me the truth, son. Why me, Lord? What vile, foul deed did I commit in a past life to earn a day like this? Officer, my friend was just looking around for the registration, sir. You see, the car, sir, his father just bought it for him. We are still a little unfamiliar with it, sir. Do not lie. You really expect me to believe that, son? Damn, this guy was fishing hard. It's the truth, sir. And if all else fails, mention my name to them, he said. My uncle taught me to respect the law, sir. Your uncle sounds like smart man, son. Maybe you should have listened to him. The cop took out his ticket book and flipped it open. I did, sir. His name is Lieutenant Campbell, sir. The notebook hesitated. Lieutenant Arnold J. Campbell? The cop asked. The one and same, sir. The notebook closed. The cop sighed and leaned in the window. He looked both myself and Mark up and down. I resisted the urge to scratch my leg as it itched again. Finally the cop spoke. I'll tell you what, son. If you can tell me what color L.T. Campbell's eyes are, I'll believe that you are his nephew. I didn't even hesitate. Blue-gray, sir. The book flipped back open. But just the one, sir. The other one he lost in the line of duty saving his partner's life. Flip. The book is shut and put away. Thank God for the thin blue line. Now look here, son. I know you wasn't the one driving this vehicle. And don't think for an instant that I believe that story about your friend looking for the registration. But, Mark started to interject. But nothing, son. And don't interrupt me again, or the next time I take out this book it's not getting put away. Now I'm going to let you off with a warning today. If it wasn't for the fact that your uncle is a full-blown hero, I would write the both of you up and impound this vehicle right now. You understand me, boys? Yes, sir, we both said in unison. Good. Now, here's what you are going to do. You are going to continue driving this car while your friend here stays in that passenger seat. At this, Mark's eyes nearly popped out of his head. And no one drove his car. Apparently, it was the response the cop was looking for. You want to give me a story? Well, now, we're just going to make it a reality. Maybe the next time you'll think twice before pulling another stunt like this one. You got me, son? Yes, sir. I could barely hear Mark's whispered response. What was that, son? I said yes, sir, sir. Good. Here's your driver's licenses back. And one more thing, he said looking straight at me, I suggest you get yours renewed. There are some typos on your information. Have a nice day. And with that he turned and walked back to his cruiser. I could only wonder what the hell he meant by that. I had only got my license earlier this year. Everything on it was right on. I checked it myself. Shit, man. You better not scratch my car or I'll. But I didn't let him finish. I'd had enough today. You'll fucking what, Mark? You got us into this mess. You insisted we switch. I just got us out of this mess. And now you want to give me an attitude? Shit, dude, I'm just saying. Don't bother. Just don't bother. I'll drive this thing how I want and you can damn well sit down and shut the hell up about it. Or would you rather I get out right now and you can explain to your father why your Mustang got impounded? Jesus. You have to decide right now to grow a set of balls? Fine. Just try not to hurt it. Please? Well, since you asked, fine. I'll try not to hurt the precious car. He either missed my sarcasm there or was simply so relieved I agreed to go easy on the car that he actually shut up. Meantime, I turned the ignition and fired the beast up. I have to admit there is a certain thrill in feeling the power of a moderately high-output hot rod growling beneath you. This sleek machine was now in my hands. I couldn't resist a little grin at Mark as I took off, just to make him nervous. No point, he should get off easy since I did all the work back there. I had almost forgotten about my predicament by the time we reached the mall. If it wasn't for the itching reminding me, I probably would have forgotten to call my mother and get Claire's number. I noticed the itching had moved up past my knee. A brief feel of my pants revealed what I suspected. I was now sporting over-the-knee socks. Something was off though. I could barely feel the edge through my jeans this time where last time it was very distinct. I parked the car beside a beat-up pickup, just to piss Mark off. He immediately grabbed his keys after I got out and moved the car down 8 spaces in the middle of nowhere. Talk about paranoid. In all honesty though, I suppose I would be doing the same if I had a car like that. Without another word, we both headed inside. I took out my cell phone and told Mark I need to make a few calls. I told him I would meet up with him in the food court in about an hour and a half, the time we were told to be there. He didn't argue. He had some cooling off of his own to do after the car ordeal. I hurried off to find someplace to make the call. I also wanted to see what the hell was going on underneath my pants. Again. So I made for the restrooms, deciding I could make my phone call in there. My legs continued itching all the way through the mall. I would have to park on the opposite side where the restrooms were, wouldn't I? I made it to the restrooms just as the itching was reaching my hips. By now I could no longer feel anything through the jeans. I already had a sinking feeling of what I would find when I looked. I may have never worn them before, but having 2 sisters makes one somewhat knowledgeable in female clothing department. I was under no illusions. My socks were becoming pantyhose. It was the only explanation. I made a beeline straight for the nearest empty stall and locked myself in. I hesitated only a moment before pulling down my pants. I was greeted with the sight of my socks coming together at the waist just as I pulled my pants down. I watched, mesmerized, as they wove themselves up over my panties. God, I couldn't even think that with a straight face, and slowly climbed up over my belly. They came to a rest there and I realized for the first time that these weren't normal pantyhose. These were tights. Thick, heavy, solid, tights. And they were still changing color too. My panties had gone from black to yellow, with pink trim around the edges. They also sported a cartoon character over the front and now had a little pink bow just above that. My tights, and yes, they were now definitely MY tights, were going from black to some equally pale color. As I watched, they passed gray into light gray, then into a sort of dirty color, then an off-white. I thought they were done there, but no. They didn't stop until they were a bright, clean, ultra-white. I pulled my pants back up in case anyone happened to peek in the cracks of the stall and see me there. Paranoid, I know, but can you blame me? I sat there, I don't know, must have been 10, 15 minutes? Then I regained my composure and took my cell phone out. I had to get hold of my older sister and figure this thing out. Who knows what will happen next? I dialed the number to my house. My little sister answered the other end. Shit. I hope she isn't still pissed at me, I thought. Hey Katie, is Mom home? It's really important. I need to talk to her. No response. This wasn't looking good. Almost a full minute went by and I just starting to panic when I heard my mother's voice on the line. Tim? What is it? Please be brief, I have dinner in the oven I need to take care of. Mom. Thank God, I didn't know if Katie was going to give you the phone or not. What do you need, hun? I told you, I have food about to burn. Mom. Please, I need Claire's cell number. It's important. Well, you are just going to have to wait until I get the food taken care of. I have to look it up and I don't have the time right this minute. Mom, please. I tried, in vain. What has gotten into you today, Tim? You can call me back in about 15 or 20 minutes. I'll get it for you then. No, Mom. Goodbye. She hung up the phone. Damn it. Here she was casually making dinner while her son was being cursed with little girl's clothing. It's not like she knows what's going on though. I'm sure that if she was aware she would let dinner burn to come to the rescue of her only son. Only son, huh? I'm beginning to feel like her second daughter. Tights. And panties. What's next? And then I remembered. I had forgotten all about it after yelling at Mark in the car. That cop. He said something about needing to update my license because my information was wrong? Oh God, no. Please, no. It can't be. Just the clothes. Just let it be my clothing. Very slowly, I buttoned up my pants and zipped my fly. I then waited patiently to make sure there was no one else around in the restroom with me. I opened the door and walked up to the mirrors above the sinks where I just stood there, staring. The differences were not major, but they were there. I pulled out my license to compare it to the mirror. The cop was right. Right there on my license it still says auburn hair. The mirror showed my hair to be a dark blonde. But that wasn't all. I had obviously lost weight. I mean, I wasn't a toothpick or anything, but sure wasn't the 195 pounds my license proclaimed. The picture wasn't any more reassuring either. First, my hair was longer now than in the photo. Not much, but hair doesn't grow that fast in a few months, let alone in one morning. Plus I couldn't help but notice that I looked younger now than in the photo. This was too much. I put my hands on the sink and leaned up against it in despair. If I wasn't so distraught over my predicament, I may have noticed that the sink came up just a little bit higher to me than I was used to. I looked at the clock on my cell phone. It had only been about 6 minutes. Mom still wouldn't help with me, even if she was finished with dinner. She said 15 minutes, she meant 15 minutes. Fine, I can deal with that. First things first. What do I have to do? I can't call Mom for another 9 minutes at least. That means I can't deal with any new changes. So that only leaves the changes I have already endured. Right. But what to start with? Something easy. The panties. The panties and the tights. Those are something I can deal with now, while I am waiting. There's a store right across from the restrooms. I can just walk in there, buy a pack of boxer briefs and come right back here to change. Then I can call Mom again when I am done. Taking one last look in the mirror, was my hair even longer? I turned to the door and exited the restrooms. I headed straight to the department store across the walkway. I was so worried someone would somehow be able to notice that I was wearing a girl's tights and panties that it wasn't until I was well into the store that I began to notice the tapping that was echoing my every step. At first I thought that someone was following me. I looked behind me but saw no one. I started walking again, and again I heard it. A light tap-tap sound every time I took a step. I looked down at my shoes, and nearly yelled out loud at what I saw. No! Not this! Not now! The changes are becoming visible. Double shit! I started to panic. I quickly darted back into an empty aisle before anyone could notice. Looking around to make sure that I was alone, I proceeded to examine this new round of changes. My shoes were definitely different. I lifted my leg to see what was making the tapping sound. My soft-soled sneakers had apparently hardened on the bottom. Now there was a slight raised heel in the back as well. The rest of the shoe was darkening even while I watched from the dirty white of my sneakers to a solid black. I put my foot down and could just barely see under my pants the shape and cut of a girl's style of shoe. The open cut came out nearly to my toes with a rounded look that was proudly showing off my socks, tights, inside. Lifting my pants leg a little revealed a simple strap holding the shoe on my foot. I knew the name of these types of shoes. Mary Janes. My shoes were turning into a pair of Mary Janes. Unbelievable. This was too much. This was way too much. Hidden changes I could deal with, but now anyone could see the shoes I was wearing. Without even thinking, I turned around and ran back to the restrooms. The tap-taping of my now hard soles shoes on the tiled floor echoing me. Once in the restrooms, I locked myself in a stall once again, made certain the toilet wasn't a mess, and flopped down in despair. I don't know how long I sat there. It was well beyond the 10 minutes I needed to wait before calling my mother back. Eventually, I remembered the cell phone in my pocket and what I had to do. I pulled myself back together and took out my cell phone. Hello? Yes. I thought. My mother had answered the phone this time. Mom. I need Claire's cell phone number. I need it now. It's important. What's important, dear? Damn it all to hell and back. Could she just once stop asking so many questions and do something when asked? Mom, I began, making a solid effort to keep my voice from betraying my desperation, as that would surely spark far more questions than I was prepared to tell her. I need to talk with Claire. It's something between me and her. Her and I, my mother corrected. God bless that woman, her heart is in the right place at least. Fine. Okay. Her and I. It's between Claire and myself. I could tell she was curious. I just hoped she wouldn't press the questions and would hurry up and get me the number before something else started changing. I was quickly running out of clothing and my hair was still growing. Well, she'll be here in about 20 minutes to pick up the last of her things. Why don't you call back and talk to her then? I couldn't believe this. 20 more minutes? Who knew what would happen to me by then? It was then that my cell phone beeped, letting me know its battery was getting low. Great, just great. Mom, I need to talk to Claire now. Right now. Please. Don't ask me why, just give me her number. Honey, is something wrong? What's going on? Great. Now she was getting worried. That was all I needed. Mom, nothing is wrong. Nothing that concerns you or Dad at least. Now, please. I just want Claire's number so that I can call her and talk to her. I have a right to speak with my sister. I was getting desperate. I didn't have the time to fool around with Mom and her 20 questions game, no matter how well-meaning she was. Okay, Buster. I'll give you the number, but you and I are going to have a talk when you come home. I heard some rustling around in the background. All right, here it is. Are you ready? I took the number down, said a hasty goodbye to Mom, hung up and dialed Claire. By the grace of God, she picked up after the first ring. Hello? My older sister's voice. It had never sounded so good before. Claire! Thank God. Hey, do you remember that spell book you had when you were little? The one you hid away under the floor in your old bedroom? Tim? Spell book? Why the hell are you asking me about that? For that matter, why the hell are you even calling me? I could already tell this was not going to be easy. We never had very good relations at the best of times. Look, Claire, please. I don't have time to argue. I found a loose board in your old bedroom with a bunch of stuff under the floor. And it was some spell book for little witches and a necklace made out of bone. It was then that I remembered I was still wearing the weird necklace. Could that thing be what was doing this to me? I pulled it out and was about to take it off right then and there, but I was holding the cell phone to my ear and Claire was starting to speak again. Yeah, I remember them. I was, 6 years old? You think you're going to try and blackmail me with stuff that old, do you? See? It's nice to know where we stand with each other. Claire, I don't want to blackmail you. I gave the spell book to Mom to give back to you, in fact. I just need to know what that necklace was. What spell did you use to make it? Jesus, Tim. That was a long time ago. 18 years, as a matter of fact. You are asking me to remember something I did 18 years ago at the age of 6? What the hell are you on, Puke? Puke was the name she had taken to calling me a long time ago. I was 13 and she was 19. She was going to a party at a friend's house after being expressly forbidden to do so. I found out and made her take me along. It was the first time I ever had alcohol. I didn't take to it very well, thus the nickname. Claire, please. I really don't want to argue. If you must know, I put the necklace on. I just want to know what it was supposed to do in case something freaky happens. Too late, I thought after I said it, something freaky is already happening. I heard her laughter in the background. Wait, let me get this straight. You find a spell book with a bone necklace. You give the spell book away and put on the necklace. And only then do you think to worry about what might happen? God. This is rich. You are such an idiot, Tim. I guess I deserved that one. Yeah, I'm an idiot, I should have thrown it away, blah, blah, blah. Will you just tell me what spell you used to make it? Please? This wasn't good. Begging was weakness to Claire. I just knew this was going to end up with me doing something I didn't want to do. Tell you what. I do remember the necklace and I'll tell you what spell I used if you do something for me in return. Yep, saw that coming. Fine, whatever you want. Just keep it within reason. And I'm not typing any reports for you like last time. You never finished the last one, you little puke. I had to redo the entire thing and only barely managed to get it in on time. Hey, it wasn't my fault you failed to specify the details. I did exactly what you asked. I wasn't about to own up to purposefully trying to fail her. Not now. Beep beep beep, went the cell phone. Oh God, that meant it was about to die. If that's how you feel, then maybe I might just forget about that spell you wanted to know about. Damn. I don't have time for this. I looked down at my shoes. I was now sporting full-fledged Mary Janes. Look, I don't have time to argue. Just tell me what you want me to do. Okay, I want you to do all my laundry tomorrow, and finish moving my boxes and start getting things unpacked and put away. I have a movie I had wanted to see with my friends tomorrow, so this should work out well. Fine, I'll do it. And if anything gets broken, you are paying for it. Good to know she still trusts me. I promise not to break anything. Geesh. Just tell me about the damn spell already. Alright, although for the life of me I can't understand why you are so determined to hear about it. It's not like magic is real or anything. That's what SHE thinks. I thought, looking down at my girly shoes. Even with my pants covering most of them, it was still obvious I was wearing girls' shoes with white tights underneath. I idly scratched at my chest as Claire finally began to explain. The spell was supposed to make your desires become real. I had a hell of a time getting together all of the ingredients at that age. A few of them I had to substitute. I had guessed as much. The way it worked was... Claire? Hello? Claire? I looked at the cell phone. It had shut off. I tried to turn it back on only for it to shut right back off again. What the hell was I supposed to do now? I thought about what she said. A desire spell. It was supposed to make my desires become real. Okay, seems fair enough. Then why was it making my clothes into a little girl's for? I sure as hell never desired that. Okay, think back. What happened after I put the necklace on? I felt a shiver down my spine. That must have meant it was activated. Then Mark arrived to pick me up. I ran out the door and into Katie. She wanted me to play with her and got angry when I said I can't. Then I went downstairs. Wait a minute, didn't I feel another shiver before I went downstairs? I did, just after Katie said something. What was it that she said, just before she stomped off into her room? I wish you were my age still. Could that be it? Could that be what's changing me? But that would be someone else's desires, not my own. Could it be the substitutions Claire made to the spell what's letting other people change me instead of myself? And it wouldn't account for the clothes, would it? It would account for why I look younger though. That's when the implications of that thought hit me. I'm getting younger. She wished I was her age. She's a 10-year-old girl. I'm turning into a 10-year-old. I'm going to keep getting younger until I am 10 years old. I was shivering by this point. Cell phone dead, my entire body shedding nearly a full decade of growth, the only person who could possibly help me hates me, and my clothes are still mysteriously changing into those of a little girl's. My clothes! That snapped me back into the here and now. I still haven't figured out why my clothes are changing yet. Okay, I felt a shiver when I put the necklace on and when Katie made her wish. That accounts for the necklace and the physical changes. Didn't I feel another shiver? Yes, when I was downstairs talking to Mom. What did she say? Something about being like my little sister because she dresses in nice clothes. Girls' clothes. I was going to be wearing girls' clothes. All my clothing was turning into a 10-year-old girl's clothes. Not only that, clothes similar to my girly girl younger sister to boot. I could only sit there, still shivering, as the full impact of this set in. It was only the itching of my chest once again that broke through my awareness. No. Not again. Only I knew it was true. I knew it would continue to. And I knew what I would find when I looked. I tried to lift my shirt up to view my chest. It wouldn't lift up. Closer inspection showed that my shirt had fused with my pants. They were both one piece of clothing now. I couldn't even take them off like they were now if I wanted to, until they finished whatever change they were going through. I resorted to looking down from the top of my shirt. What I saw was exactly what I expected. I was wearing a bra. It looked just like one of Katie's training bras. It was the same color as my panties. I could only guess that they were a matching set. And my shirt had changed more too. I noticed it as I held it out from my neck. The neckline was lower for starters. The sleeves seemed a little, I don't know, puffier? I was beyond having a reaction. I was in shock. My body getting younger, my clothes turning into the opposite gender, my entire life changing right before my very eyes, and there was nothing I could do. I stood up and listened for anyone else in the restroom. There was one other person who I waited on to leave. Once it was clear, I walked out of the stall and up the mirror again. The first thing I noticed was the counter. It was much higher than it was before, which meant that I was now much shorter. Before, it had come up to about my waist. Now it was up to my chest. Looking in the mirror, I almost couldn't believe my eyes. In the hour or so since I had last looked into it, so much had changed. I already looked like I was only about 12 or 13 at the most. My weight too had dropped much more. I was always somewhat athletic growing up and therefore had a muscular build. Now I was downright thin. My hair had also continued its change. It was a light honey blonde, just like my sister Katie's. It had grown well past my ears, and the only reason I hadn't noticed until now was because the bangs kept it out of my face. This disturbed me. If I was simply turning into a 10-year-old boy with girls' clothes, then why was my hair changing like a girl's too? Did that mean that I was going to become a complete girl myself? I should be freaking out. I should be yelling and screaming and going insane. Instead, I just felt kind of numb inside. It was all too much. While I was staring at myself in the mirror, some guy had walked into the restroom. He gave me a long and uncomfortable stare before relieving himself at a urinal and quickly walking back out. I realized that I must look more like a girl to him than a boy. Taking a deep breath, I knew I could no longer hide in the restroom. Nor could I go over into the women's restroom either. Not just for the fact that I was not female yet, but also I couldn't bring myself to cross that barrier just yet. I was determined to hold on to as much as myself as I could, and going into the women's room was not conducive to that mindset. I took one last glance in the mirror, taking stock of myself. I noticed that my hair was starting to curl. I think that was even worse than the tights and the panties actually. Long curly hair is the epitome of little girlness. Turning away, I walked back outside and into the mall. I tried to ignore the tap-taping of my Mary Janes on the tile. I could feel a little breeze on my legs as I walked and looked down to investigate. My pants seemed to be climbing up my legs, leaving my white stocking-clad legs revealed for all the world to see. I was amazed that no one was taking particular notice. I mean, sure, the changes were happening very slowly and one would have to watch for several minutes in order to even notice anything, but you would think someone would take notice of a seeming 12-year-old androgynous, but leaning toward girl to be fair, kid wearing odd clothes which seemed undecided themselves over whether they wanted to be boys' clothes or girls' clothes. I did get a few odd stares, and even a few long ones, but nothing more. I guess people simply chalked it up to some weird new teenage fad. I half hoped for someone to stare at me long enough to actually notice the changes happening. Maybe then I could get someone to help me, if that were possible. I walked around the mall randomly, not having any real sense of direction. I mean, what could I do? As I walked, I could still feel my pants going through their change. I felt more and more breeze traveling up my leg. I knew this meant that my pants were still receding. It seemed to level out and stop at just above my knees. My hands could feel the change in material as they brushed against my pants while I walked. I could feel them becoming softer and thinner. Unable to help myself any longer, I stopped in front of the big glass windows of some storefront to look at my reflection again. What looked back at me was most certainly not myself. I looked at the oldest, 11 or maybe 12. My hair was nearly down to my shoulders. It was very curly now. My shirt and pants now looked like a short girl's jumpsuit. My white legs protruding down and ending in Mary Jane shoes. I looked every bit like a girl. I wasn't sure I could pass for a boy now even if I took these girls' clothes off. Staring at my reflection, I felt hopeless, lost. Here I was, in the middle of the mall, miles away from home, stuck wearing little girl's clothing, my own body become a little girl itself, no cell phone, and no one to turn to for help. All I had was this necklace. This horrible, evil, hellishly ugly necklace which I had, like the idiot I was, stupidly worn in ignorance. If only I had tossed it out with the rest of the trash from the hole in the floor. Then everything would be fine and I would be getting ready for a party tonight with a beautiful girl, not becoming one myself. The party! I forgot all about it. I was supposed to meet up with Mark and Alicia at the food court in just about an hour. How was I going to meet them looking like this? I mean, I was young enough to qualify as Alicia's sister, now not her date, even if she was willing to date a guy wearing little girl's clothing. I took out the necklace again from under my shirt. It was hard to believe that this harmless-looking little thing had caused all this mess. I looked back at my reflection, thinking back to what Claire had said before the cell phone went dead. A spell of desire. Wait a minute. I saw that one. I vaguely remembered glancing at that spell while I was briefly leafing through the spell book. What did it say? Something about making your desires become real. But how? I felt like kicking my own ass for not reading the whole thing. Or for putting the damned necklace on in the first place. I focused back on my reflection in the glass. I could see the changes that happened just while I had been standing there. My jumpsuit was now a dress. The original dark color of my shirt was fading fast to what was obviously becoming a light pink. Gone was the AC/DC logo, replaced by artful wrinkles in the cloth. I now looked every bit the 10-year-old girl I was to become. I wondered how I was going to meet with my friend Mark, or even how I was going to get home. Forget the party. I wanted nothing more right at that moment than to go home so I could talk to Mom, talk to Claire, and try to get all this sorted. I just wish I could get a ride home with Mark without having to explain anything. I just want everything to be normal again. Suddenly I felt another shiver travel down my spine. What the hell? I heard a small clatter at my feet and looked down to see a mess of bones scattered on the floor. With a feeling of dread, I lifted the string of the necklace to see that it was gone. The string was there, but the bones of the necklace had all fallen off. I felt a slight pressure in my head. Suddenly I could remember memories that weren't there before. A lot of them involved Mark. I remembered my bedroom, just across from his. I remembered his parents, now MY parents. I even remembered coming to the mall with him today, to get a gift for our mother for her birthday. I staggered backwards, trying to cope under the mental weight of an entire new life entering my head at an accelerated rate, and landed right in Mark's arms. There you are. Shit. I thought I was never going to find you. Don't you ever run off like that again. I could only stare up at him dumbly. This was all too much to cope with easily. Come on, he said, I got you that bracelet you wanted to buy to give to Mom for her birthday. Now I have to go meet someone. He took me firmly by the hand and led me to the food court. We went through the line of a fast food place where he ordered me the kids' meal. If I wasn't still in shock, I would have taken offense. He then led me to a table and we sat down to eat. Sitting down, I noticed that my feet didn't even touch the floor. Plus, I could feel the cold of the chair through my tights. Mentally, I now seemed to be accustomed to these feelings, but physically it was all new. It was a very odd feeling, the duality. It only took a moment for me to realize why girls smooth their dresses and skirts down as I promptly stood back up and adjusted mine while I sat down again. I noticed along the way that I had acquired a small Hannah Montana purse. After we finished our meal, I opened it up to investigate its contents. The first thing that caught my eye was an obviously fake ID made for kids. I took it out and looked at it. It was me. The new me, I mean. The girl me. It even had a photo of me in it. I had brown hair instead of blonde. I grabbed a piece of my now shoulder-length curls to compare. Yep, it was indeed brown. My name was now Tiffany Danson. Putting the ID card aside, I continued my investigation, but found nothing but what an ordinary 10-year-old might have in her purse. My cell phone was now a cheap disposable deal with a pink plastic cover, the same color as the pink lip gloss resting beside it. Some loose change and couple of crinkled $1 bills. A small bottle of hand sanitizer. A small tube with some kind of glittery gel. A hair scrunchie. And a couple pieces of gum. This was my life now. Pink lip gloss and glitter. The necklace was gone and now I was stuck like this. There was no way out. Or was there? I remembered the spell book that I had given Katie's mom. Wait a minute. Katie's mom? Did I really just think that? Crap. I couldn't help but take notice that my very thoughts were now different. Even my swearing was altered. I tried thinking of a few swear words. They felt alien to my mind, yet vaguely familiar at the same time. My new Tiffany personality was becoming dominant. I had to get that book. I had to it soon too, before I actually started getting used to being Tiffany. First, I had to get to Katie's house though. It shouldn't be too hard since I was now best friends with her instead of my brother Mark. Gah. I was thinking more and more like Tiffany. I wasn't losing my mind or anything like that. I was still me. I was just thinking differently. I could feel my old normal thoughts at the same time as these new ones too, and they were feeling weaker, more distant. There wasn't any time to waste. Mark, I want to go home, I said. Might as well get straight to the point. We can't leave yet until my friends arrive, he replied. I searched my new memories. I remembered the fuel station earlier today. Only instead of me going inside, it was Mark who went in and met Alicia. That must mean he was the one invited to the party. Those must be the friends he is referring to, as I couldn't remember any plans prior to our coming to the mall. I looked at the big clock on the wall near the ceiling. It was 10 till 5. They would be here any minute now. I had no choice but to wait them out. I figured he would have to drop me off at home before heading out to the party anyway. Maybe if I was lucky, I could talk him into taking me to Katie's house instead. I sat there kicking my legs in the air for the next 15 minutes. It was 5 after by the time they arrived. Alicia showed up with her friend like she had told Mark, I mean me, only her friend had a date with her now. They came over and sat down, oblivious to how impatient I was. I received my first little girl treatment then as they commented upon how pretty I looked in my pink dress. As if having to wear the pink dress wasn't enough. Mark and Alicia hit it off pretty well, talking about everything from favorite music to what colleges looked appealing. Finally, Alicia suggested they leave and we all headed towards the parking lot. It was decided that Alicia would ride with Mark since she knew they were going. The plan was to drop me off at home first, then head over to the party. I waited until we were nearly home, then asked Mark if he would drop me off at Katie's house as it was on the way. No way. Mom would rip me a new one if I just dropped you off somewhere without permission. Not to mention she would probably try to take my keys away for a while. I could see this was going to be a hard battle if he was worried about losing his car, even for a day. I always go to Katie's house, I whined. I found I was now very good at whining. Besides, Katie might want to come to Mom's birthday party too. It was a long shot, but it was worth a try. I said no. End of discussion. I'm not going to argue about it. Shit. You'd think you'd be happy to come out to the mall and even get lunch, but no. You always want more. Mark. That's not a nice thing to say, Alicia chimed in. What's this? I thought. Unexpected help. Maybe I can use this. Arguing obviously wasn't getting me anywhere. So I did the only other thing I could think of. Something I had seen Katie do on countless occasions to get her way. I cried. Now see what you've done? You made her cry. Alicia unbuckled her seatbelt and turned around to comfort me. Strangely, it did feel comforting. That had to be the Tiffany part of me. She's just crying to get her way, Mark said. He wasn't buying it. She does it all the time. Alicia glared at Mark, but said nothing else. Damn. Well, I tried. That's what matters. I guess I was going to have to get to Katie's house. No. My house. My house, damn it, after I was dropped off. We only lived a few miles from the Shales anyway. It was getting harder to think like my old self. Like I said, I wasn't becoming someone else, I was just thinking and acting differently. It was disturbing how easily some of this was coming to me. Like the crying bit. I haven't cried since I was a kid, although I guess in all honesty I was a kid again now. Alicia finally turned back around in her seat after making sure I was calmed down. I suffered the rest of the drive in silence save for the occasional sob. Seems once girls get themselves going it was hard to stop. At last we arrived at home and I jumped out of the car. I ran into the house to find my new parents. Mom was nowhere to be found. Dad was home, however. I ran up him determined to convince him to take me to Katie's. Daddy, daddy, daddy. Where did that come from? Oh crap, the Tiffany part of me was nearly in control. If I didn't get to that spell book soon, I'm not sure I'd be able to do or say the things the Timothy part of me would, even if I wanted to, which I am not at all certain I would. I had to make an effort to do anything I wouldn't normally do. I mean that Tiffany wouldn't normally do. Daddy, Mr. Danson, picked me up to hug me and then set me back down. Hiya, princess. Inwardly I cringed, outwardly I beamed. How's my little girl doing today? Mark was mean to me. Again, this came out before I could stop it. I was not, was Mark's response. No fighting now. Tonight is your mother's birthday after all. Yeah, sure. Hey, where is Mom anyway? Asked Mark. Your mother is working late tonight. She won't be home for another hour or so. Damn, I have a friend in the car I promised to give a lift to. I wanted to give her present to her before I left. Mark's got a girlfriend. Some part of me couldn't help saying it. And he's going to a party with her. There, that should get him back from making me cry earlier. Wait a minute. I made myself cry. Didn't I? What's this about a party? Dad was giving Mark the look now. You would miss your mother's birthday party to hang out with your friends? It's not a party. Mark was now glaring at me. I promised my friend, this directed in my direction, that I would take her home. Her ride fell through. What was I supposed to do, leave her stranded at the mall? Mark's going to a party with his girlfriend. I was actually enjoying giving him grief. Now I see why little sisters do it all the time. It serves them right, taking one's older, bigger brother down a notch or two. Mark, you're 18 now and your own man. I'm not going to order you to stay home. But you should know that you will be hurting your mother's feelings if you don't show up. Look, Dad, I'll be there. I'll just be a little late. Okay? Here, this is Tiff's gift you wanted me to buy. He placed the wrapped box on the table and started walking toward the garage and his car. I was so caught up with being Tiffany that I completely forgot about getting the spell book back until now. I chided myself internally and made a resolution to hold more firmly onto the Tim part of me. The only problem was that that part was becoming less important every minute. Dad had sat back down to finish watching CNN. Daddy? I did my best to act all innocent. It came naturally now. What is it, honey? Can I go over to Katie's? Not right now, sweetheart. Daddy is too busy to drive you right now. Please? I sniffed for effect. I just wanted to invite Katie over to Mommy's birthday party. There, just the right amount of wine. I was quickly becoming an expert at this. Dad sighed. He was obviously tired, having just come home from work, and didn't want to go anywhere. On the other hand, his adorably cute little girl was begging him to do something relatively simple that also involved his wife's impending birthday celebration. What was a father to do? All right, I'll take you to pick up Katie. Call over there first and see if she's allowed to come. Yay. I'll go call right now. Thanks, Daddy. I bounced over to the kitchen to grab the cordless phone. I didn't even have to think about where anything was in this house anymore. I just knew. This thought momentarily passed across my mind before being interrupted by Caitlin answering the phone. Hello? Hi, Katie. It's Tiff. Hey, you want to come over to my mom's birthday party today? There's going to be cake. I figured the cake would get her. Tiffany. Yeah, let me ask my mom. I was right. Tell her my dad said he would pick you up, I added. I was not about to miss out on the chance to get over there in person. I could hear her muffled conversation going on in the background. After a few minutes, Caitlin returned to the line. She said it's okay. But she's picking me up by 9. I hadn't even thought about the possibilities of curfews again. I no doubt had one too, being 10 now. Just another reason to get that book back. That's fine. I'll be there soon. Not soon enough for me. Okay. I'll get ready. Bye. She hung up. I thought about that conversation for a moment as I replaced the phone on its receiver. Am I really going to have to deal with my friends always being so excitable as a girl? Then I had another thought. Am I really thinking of being a girl for that long? I don't know which thought I found more disturbing. I went back to tell Dad that everything was okay. He told me he would run me over after his show was off in a few minutes. I went to my room to kill the time and to get rid of the Hannah Montana purse I had been carrying around all day. No, that's not right. I have only been carrying it for the last several hours. Don't forget myself. I tossed the purse on my bed, taking note of how pink the room was. It seemed nearly everything was pink. And what wasn't pink was white. It was a nightmare to the Tim part of my mind. It was home to the Tiffany part. I opened my closet out of curiosity. I already knew what I would find there, but I still wanted to see it for myself. Dresses of various colors along with skirts and a few blouses hung neatly from the rack. The limited number of pants was a bit disturbing, but that feeling passed quickly, far quicker than it should have. On the left side, sitting on a box, was my ballerina outfit. Memory told me that I had classes several days a week for 2 hours a day. I had been taking them since I was 8. I could remember everything. I looked down at my legs in their white tights. Just for the hell of it, I did a few ballet positions in front of the mirror that hung on my closet door. They were perfect. I looked at my reflection for what seemed to be the umpteenth time that day. I had to admit, I was damn cute. From my curly light brown hair to my Mary Jane clad feet, I was the very picture of a little girl. A neat and clean little girl. I felt a slight shiver at this thought. A little girl who had an increasing desire to play with her dolls. I looked at the wall where they sat on a shelf. I couldn't get the feeling to go away. I wanted to play with them and I wanted to do it now. I fought against the urge, but I knew I would fail eventually. I wanted to fail. Thankfully, Dad called out that we were leaving before I could give in to the feeling. 2 minutes later, we were in the car and on the road. It only took about 5 minutes to drive the 2 miles to Katie's. As soon as the car came to a stop, I hopped out and ran up to the house. The front door was unlocked. Caitlin greeted me as soon as I ran in. She was sitting on the floor with a coloring book in front of her and a cartoon playing in the background. We jumped around for a few minutes before she took my hand and led me off to her bedroom. As we passed by, I looked into Claire's old room. It was full of all sorts of stuff. It looked like it was being used for storage. I wondered if the spell book had even been found in this new reality. I wondered if it was even possible for me to remain changed if it hadn't. Then I entered Caitlin's room, and I wondered if she was going to bring any of her toys so we could play after the party. She was putting a few things in her backpack, she was bringing her toys, yay, and I decided that now was the chance to make my move. I told her I had to use the bathroom and slipped out of her room. I walked across the hall to the new storage room. I recognized all the stuff with my other set of memories. It was stuff that had been taking up space in the garage for some time. It was hard, but I managed to get to the spot where the secret hiding place was. A quick examination showed that the board had indeed been pulled up. That meant the book was around here somewhere. I waded my way through the junk and back outside into the hallway. I could hear Caitlin downstairs now talking to her mom. Not knowing what else to do, and not having the time to search the house, I went downstairs with everyone else. Dad was already back in the car and Mrs. Shale was telling her daughter to be ready to get picked up by 9. I was feeling desperate. Here I was, back in my original home, all obstacles thus far overcome, and I was still no closer to the spell book than I was at the mall. Caitlin ran to the door and looked back at me. "Come on, let's go." Does she ever not get excited? I looked at Mrs. Shale. This was my last chance, I realized. One last, final try before I was ushered off back to my new home and stuck in this new life forever as a 10-year-old little girl with a passion for all things girly. I had no illusions that either Mrs. Shale or Claire would keep the book around for very long. Mrs. Shale?" I asked, hesitantly. "Yes, dear? Did you by any chance come across a spell book in Claire's old room?" I held my breath. "Why, yes we did. It was tucked away under the floorboards." "How on earth did you know about it?" "Great. Something else to explain." "Oh, I heard her talking about it once." "Smooth. Now that she is moving out, I was wondering if maybe I could borrow it?" "Well, I don't know." The expression on her face did not look promising at all. "I gave it back to her just an hour ago when she came to pick up her things." "You would have to ask her, but she is on her way to her new apartment." My heart dropped. It was almost enough to make me cry again. Her new apartment was hours away in a different city. Even if I could get the book back, it wouldn't be for days, maybe weeks. I doubted if I could hold on to my old self for that long. "Thank you, Mrs. Shale," I said, and then followed Caitlin out the door. Walking to Dad's car, she asked me how I knew about the book. She hadn't even heard about it. I told her that Claire talks in her sleep, using the last sleepover I had at her house a few weeks ago as inspiration. It seemed enough to satisfy her curiosity. The drive home was uneventful. Mom's birthday party was actually fun. There was cake and ice cream. She loved the bracelet I had picked out for her. Afterwards, Katie and I went up to my room so we could play. As we played, a final shiver ran down my back. I didn't even think about the old me all night. I was having too much fun to bother with it. The ending. It's been over a year now since that day in the mall. I never did get hold of Claire to ask her about the spell book. Over the months, I even saw her a few times at Caitlin's house, but the thought never even crossed my mind. The only time I ever think about the old me is when something happens that requires that knowledge. Like when Sarah Miller tried to bully me in school. That's another thing. I am back in school. I hated school the first time around, but now I kind of like it. I have some great friends, though none are as good as Caitlin. We play together almost every day. We're like sisters to each other. My fashion sense is starting to become more mature. I am slowly getting rid of my little girl dresses and getting into new cuts and styles. I am also starting to play with makeup. I don't like the gaudy look that some girls my age are running around with. I prefer the clean, neat look. I've settled and fine at home. I love my parents. Mom and Dad would do anything for me. We have a very strong family bond. Even my butthole of an older brother, Mark. He didn't last very long with Alicia. It only took her a few weeks to find out how big of a jerk he can be. God bless her. I still see her from time to time. She takes dance lessons at the same studio I have my ballet classes. Mark has since moved out. He showed up one day to announce that he had won a full scholarship playing football at a decent college. Dad was ecstatic. After all, it was about the only way my idiot brother was ever going to get in. He finished moving his stuff out to the moving van just yesterday and is already on the way to his new dorm. I talked Dad into giving me his old room since it is larger. I will be moving into it today. Caitlin is coming over to help me. This time I will be keeping a very large hammer nearby. You know, in case I find any loose boards on the floor.